Hi everyone, thank you for joining us. My name is Fahim Niaz. I am the product manager for Anime Studio. Today we have a great webinar on demystifying the use of scripts in Anime Studio with Vern Zehr. And Vern has been a long-time user of Anime Studio. He's by his own rights an expert in the product, and he's been on many of our forums answering tons of questions and basically helping anybody out that has any comments or suggestions with Anime Studio. So just a few things to mention before we begin the webinar. Number one, all attendees will be muted. And there's a Q&A at the very end of the webinar as well. So please make sure to ask your questions in the Q&A section and do that throughout the webinar, and then we'll get to it at the very end. As well, this webinar will be recorded and it will be posted on our website hopefully in a day or in a couple of days' time. So with that, I am going to pass the reins of the webinar over to Vern, and Vern will begin his webinar.
Hello everybody, this is Vern Zehr. I'm known as Hey Vern on the Anime Studio Lost Marble Forum. Today's presentation will cover the installation and use of scripts in both Anime Studio Pro and Anime Studio Debut. Scripts tend to be thought of as a pro feature, but they are usable in the Debut product. And my intention with this webinar is to simplify this process, is to show how easy it is to use all these wonderful tools that so many people have spent hours and hours creating. You don't need to be as smart as they are to use them, and that's my intention, is to show how easy it is to use them. I'm going to be demonstrating to some degree on both Mac and Windows, just to cover the differences in the platforms. I'll be using Windows Vista for that process. The process for installation is almost identical on both platforms. I just want to make sure I cover the bases, because I know there's a lot more Windows users than Mac users. I will also be covering the different types of scripts. One thing I want to point out is that this will not be a presentation on how to write scripts. That's a completely different topic. This is only for how ordinary average users of Anime Studio who don't want to learn scripting but want to take advantage of those wonderful tools that are out there, and I want to show how easy it is to take advantage of that. And at the end of the presentation, I will do a quick demonstration of several really exciting tools that you can install really easily and set up and take advantage of. Part of this presentation will also cover creating the custom content folder for your Anime Studio installation. Now, if you're not familiar with that, it's a fairly recent feature that was added to Anime Studio. When you first install the product, you may notice that window that pops up when you first launch it that says, do you want to create a custom content folder? That feature is integral to making installing scripts easy. I mean, really, really easy, because you can put the folders anywhere you want. You can have more than one custom content folder and switch back and forth between them to have different tool sets for different ways of working with the program. And this, of course, works with both Anime Studio Pro and Debut. So let me get started, and the first thing I want to cover is the different types of scripts. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and open up a custom folder that I've already created. And I'm just using this as a reference. I'll be showing you how to install, but I'm going to go into the scripts. Now this is Pro. Now in Pro, there are two main types of scripts. There are the tool scripts and the menu scripts. Now these are the actual scripts that run in the application that you can access. You can click on a tool and use it as, and do things on the screen with points, with bones, with layers. A menu script is a pro feature only. that allows you to pull down from a menu and select a script that does something like create shapes or do some effect on the screen affecting the document. So they have a slightly different behavior. Tool scripts also include buttons. So a tool, you click the tool and you do things on the screen. A button, you click the tool and it does something right away. So those are the two different types of tool scripts. Buttons and tools are always in the same folder, but setting them up is a little different, and I will also cover that. The one thing that I will not be covering is layer scripts. Embedded layer scripts is a way you can click on a layer property and you can embed a layer script into that layer so that on every single frame that layer script runs and does things to that particular layer or the document. I won't be covering that type of script because it's a little more complicated, it's a little more specialized, and every layer script behaves in a different way, and it's not part of the Anime Studio interface, and it's a little more specialized. So we're only going to be focusing on scripts that can be installed in the application. So let me start off. I'm going to start off on the Macintosh, and I'm going to open up Anime Studio Pro. It has no custom folder assigned. So immediately we get the window that says, would you like to choose a location for your custom content folder? And you have three choices. You can say never, which means this window will never pop up again. You can say, not right now, I'm going to do it later. Or you can immediately choose a location for your custom content folder. If you choose never, it's not a problem. You can always get back and create one at any time. It's very easy to do. But if you're not ready to do it yet and you're just learning the Anime Studio and you want to do that at a later time, you can just hit never and this window won't bother you anymore. If you hit not now, it'll just open normally, but the next time you open the application, the window will pop up again. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to create a custom content folder. And I'm going to go to my desktop, and I have a scripting webinar folder. And what I've done is I've created two folders, one for debut and one for pro. So these two folders will be like parent folders for all of my custom content folders. You may want to have more than one. And the key to this is how they're structured. Now this is one that I've already set up previously, and it's named after my company. And when I open it up, inside that folder is a folder called Anime Studio Pro. And that's what's created. Every time you create a custom content folder, it automatically creates an Anime Studio Pro folder with all of these elements inside of it. Okay? So now what this means is if you create multiple content folders, you want to make sure that you put a parent folder. You put it inside a parent folder because this folder is always going to have the same name, and what would happen is there would be a conflict. It would replace the folder, overwrite a folder. So if you put it in a parent folder like this, you can keep them organized and you can have as many as you want. So I'm going to create a new one, and I'm going to call it Webinar Custom Content, and I'll just give it one in case I want to make a couple more. And so I'm going to create that folder, and now I'm going to say open. So this is where I'm choosing a folder for my custom content. I've created my custom content 1 folder, and I'm going to hit open, and there it's now generated that custom content folder, and that's all you need to worry about. That folder exists, it's ready to go. The interface now doesn't have any custom tools added. There's nothing extra in there. Under the scripts, it's the same standard scripts that come with the standard installation. And all of these scripted tools and all of these scripts up here are all stored hidden away in the application folder. On Mac, it's a little different than it is on Windows, but you don't have to worry about it. You don't need to go into those folders. You don't need to worry about where they're kept. Because it's your custom folder is yours and you can put it anywhere you want. And the way to get to it is you go under the Help menu and you say Open Custom Content Folder. And this is that folder I was describing. Here's my here's my main folder that holds my previously created one. Here's this folder I just created, and there's my Anime Studio folder, just like the other one that has the Anime Studio folder. So if we look in this folder, we see all of our custom content. And this is obviously where you can put all kinds of stuff. You can put your own custom brushes, you can put your own character files in here, and that type of thing. But we're going to be focusing on the scripts, and this is why this is such an important feature, is that we now have a completely empty scripts folder. There's nothing in it. All the folders are empty. It does create this category, the category folders that already exist in the menu script drop-down, but all those folders are empty and ready for you to drop in the tools and features that you want to use. And now in the tool folder, and this is how we can organize our tools. There's a tool list text file. Before we get to that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to demonstrate the same process on Windows real quickly, just so you can see that it's the same process. I have Anime Studio Pro right here. I'm going to launch that. The same window pops up. I'm going to say choose, and of course the interface is a little different on Windows. I'm going to go to my scripting webinar folder, and I have my custom content, and I also have my Hubu Media folder. So I'm going to create a new folder and call it Webinar Custom Content 1. And there's my folder. I'm going to hit OK. And it does the exact same process just like it did on the Mac. And once again, it's an empty folder. Everything here is all standard tools that were originally installed. And if I go in the same place, I go under Help, and I can say Open Custom Content Folder, and there's my custom content folder, just as it was created on the Mac, the same way. There's my content 1 and Anime Studio Pro, and all my custom content. And once again, all these items are empty. There's nothing in any of these folders. They're ready for you to start putting in your extra stuff. So that covers the installation process, and beyond that, there really isn't that much else different between the two platforms. It's mainly just the difference between the interface of the system, and also, for example, in the tool folder, you have a tool list, and opening that, it depends on the platform you're on. If it's on a Mac, it's going to open TextEdit. If it's on Windows, it's probably going to open Notepad or whatever you assign to it. So let me switch back to the Mac. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to install a script. Now, one of the nice features is that in Pro, we have other popular scripts. Right under the scripts menu item is a link to a website called Anime Studio Scripts. And this site has a lot of really cool tools and scripts that you can use. And what may be a problem when you're first starting out is maybe scripting is a little scary, it's a little bit strange, but once you realize how easy it is to take advantage of these things and you read the descriptions of them, you could say, hey, I could really use that. That looks amazing. I want to put that into Anime Studio so I can take advantage of it. And so this is one place where you could get started. You can also go to the Lost Marble forum. And there is a scripting section of the forum. Now this tends to get complicated because there's a lot of people either asking for help with a script or script writing, but there are also a lot of scripts available on the Lost Marble forum in the scripting forum. You could post a question saying, is there a script that does this or that type of thing, and you can also get to the AnimeStudioScripts.com website from here. And so this is another resource for scripting, for downloading scripts. I often like to think of scripts, rather than calling them scripts, I like to think of them as plugins or extensions, just to remove the mystification, the sort of complex quality of what they really are. They're actually plugins and add-ons that expand the performance of the program. So to start off, I'm going to install this tool set right here. Is called Phasic Tools. Phasic was an Anime Studio Forum member who was just brilliant. I mean, he created some amazing tools, and these have been updated for the recent version so that they function correctly. So let's click on that, and we can see there's a little bit of a description here, and then the tools are downloadable. So I'm going to go to my webinar folder, and I'm just going to save it right here into the folder. And here's the scripts. Here's the Phasic tool script that I downloaded, and so I'm going to extract that. And what we have now is we have a folder with the scripts that you need to install. So let's just open this up and look at it. There's a README included. It depends on how the developers, create their scripts. They're usually going to include some kind of description to tell you where things go and how to use it. And then what this script requires is, you can see there's a utility folder. Well, utility scripts are interesting. They're special little gizmos that are required by the tools to reference and use to function properly. You just don't even have to worry about what that is. All you have to know is the utility script just needs to go into the utility script folder of your custom folder. So what I'm going to do is, here I've got my pro content. I'm going to open up my folder here in a new window. I'm going to open up my Phasic tools, and then here we can see how this all works. Just adjust my windows here a little bit. So what we have here is, I'm now in the scripts folder for that custom folder, the custom content folder I created, and we have these 4 folders: script resources. You don't have to worry about that. All you have to worry about are either the tool and menu or the utility, depending on the type of script you downloaded. Now what's nice about this is everything's organized exactly where it needs to go. So to install Phasic tools, my tool folder is empty. I'm just going to select all the items in this folder. Now there's a lot of tools in this folder, and you don't have to install all of them. You can install as many or as few as you want. If you only want one particular tool, you can just install that one tool. So what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to select them all, and I'm just going to either copy and paste or drag and drop. I'm going to go ahead and copy this, and I'm going to come over to my tool folder, and I'm going to paste. And now I have all of Phasic's tools in there. That's the tool functionality. But I also need to put my utility script in. So I come over here, and in this case I'm just going to drag it in. So I'm dragging it over, and I drop it in my utilities folder, and there it is. And that's it. The script is installed, and it's ready to go. And that's all it required, was just putting, in many cases you're only going to have a tool folder, and you just drag the tool into the tool folder of your custom content folder. So it's all installed and ready to go. I'm going to go back to Anime Studio Pro. Now there's 2 different ways to activate the new installation. By default, I've added these new tools, but nothing has changed in the application. I either have to quit and restart Anime Studio, or I can use a key command to refresh the script folder. And on the Mac, the key command is Option Shift F5, and I believe on Windows it's Alt Control F5. So now I refreshed it, and as you can see here, I have a new section in my tool folder called Other, and that's because I haven't defined where these new tools should go. So by default, Anime Studio automatically sees that there's these new extra tools in my tool folder of my custom content folder, and there's nothing there to tell it where to put them, so it automatically creates this other section and puts all custom tools into this other section. And and they work exactly the way they're supposed to. Without doing anything else. You don't have to do anything else. You can just leave all your custom tools in this other section. I will show you then how to organize them. If you choose to, you can organize them by editing the tool list text file. But for now, let's just see what this does. So now we have these new tools, and as you can see, we have a point translation tool here that has the same icon as the standard one. You can see under here, under the tools, the same Anime Studio draw tools available. Let me just open a new, simpler document so that you can see how this can benefit your working. So here I've created a simple box shape, and with the Anime Studio Translate tool, I'm pretty much limited to dragging one point at a time. Or if I click on the edge of the path, of the vector, I can drag all the points. But I can't select this point and this point. It only selects one point at a time. With Phasic tools that I just installed, it's given me a whole new way of working with only having one tool. To select multiple points with the standard tools, I have to select a completely different tool to swipe over the points, and then I have to switch back to the Translate tool to move them. But with Phasic's tools, I can come down here, and if you notice up here at the top, it has instructions on how to use the tool. And so you hold down a key command, and you can select multiple points and drag them with the same tool. So you do not have to switch tools in order to take advantage of this feature. And the only way to get this is finding someone who's created these tools that have these extra features. Once again, another extra feature would be the rotate point tool, which allows you to move the center point. You can't do that with the standard tools, but with Phasic's tools, you can move the center point of the rotation of your points. So this is how easy it is to set these up, and this is why you want to take advantage of scripts if you want additional features added to the program. Now let's talk about how to organize these tools. What could happen is I have all these tools are all jammed together in one group under Other. I'd like to organize these a little better. So let's go back to the tool folder. This is my custom folder here, and I'm in my scripts tool folder, and you'll see here there's a file called toollist.txt _tool_list.txt. This is a plain ASCII simple text file, and it should be kept that way. Don't open it in like a word processor. You just want to open it in Notepad or TextEdit, just a plain simple text editor. And this is what defines the way the tools are organized. Now it looks really creepy and scary and funky, but it's really quite straightforward and simple. You don't have to worry too much about what's going on here. You can ignore most of this unless you want to put tools in a special spot. And as you can see here, we have groups. So this is a group, and these are the standard groupings for Anime Studio tools. So they're set in a specific way. When you create your own custom groups or new groups, you don't have to type in all this gobbledygook. This is specifically for working with the standard tools that come with Anime Studio. So just for an example, I'm gonna create a new group, and I just type in group, and I'm going to call it Phasic. I'm going to call it Phasic-tools. All right, so that's my new group. I've created a new group, and now I want to put some tools in there. Now, my tools for the new tools that I've added, they aren't listed anywhere in here, but you can see that under each of these groups, these tools are placed under that particular group, and that's how they show up in these groups in the interface. So as you can see here, we have our draw tools, and here are the listing of all the draw tools that are showing up here because they're in that group. So in order for me to create a FASIC tools group for that particular script, I need to duplicate this setup. And basically what it is the first thing you see is it tells you what it is. It's a tool. The second part is the name of the tool, and that's basically the name of the actual file that you put in your scripts tool folder without the extension. So you can just copy and paste the name of that file, and then there's either a ... for a shortcut if it doesn't have a shortcut key, or you can put in shortcuts. And I believe, off the top of my head, I believe there's like 4 keys left available for shortcuts that aren't being used by any other tools. J, K, O, and Y are still available. It's not a lot, but at least there's some there. What I would do is if I run out of key shortcuts, I steal some from other tools. I don't use that often. So let's go ahead and add a tool. We're just going to add one. I'm going to add a tool to that group. So I'm going to add the translate point tool. So I scroll down here and I find translate points.lua. All scripts have an extension of .lua. That's the format of the way the tool script is written. You only need to get this name right here. So I'm copying the name of that tool. I'm going to type in tool. I'm going to hit a tab. I'll put a tab in there. I'm going to paste the name in. I'm going to hit tab again. And I'm going to go ahead and steal the shortcut key from the actual default translate point tool up here. So this one's set for T, but I'm going to use FASIC tools all the time, so I'm just going to put in ... for that one. And now I've completely changed how Anime Studio is working. I've set group FASIC's tools. I put the tool in there, and I set its shortcut to T. I'm going to save this file. I'm going to go back to Anime Studio, and I'm going to reload the scripts using my shortcut. And now you see here I have this new grouping called FASIC Tools, and my Translate Point tool is in that group. All the other tools, because they haven't been added to a group, are still in the other section. But my new group now, that's reflected in this document with just 2 lines of text typed in, has now put this new Translate tool. And because I changed the shortcut, the default Translate tool doesn't have a shortcut anymore, and now my FASIC tool shortcut works by pressing T. So I've now completely changed the performance and added completely new features previously unavailable that allow me to improve my workflow in Anime Studio. So that's how you can modify the organization of the tools. I could even eliminate this group. I don't even need that group. I could just copy that tool and put it in my draw tools up here. Just copy and paste, put it in there, and I could even delete the translate points reference. I'm not going to do that because it'll cause a blank, it'll stick that tool back down into the other section. But by doing that, so I'm going to get rid of my group here. And so basically what I've done is I've just put the FASIC tool up here in my draw tools section, and I go back, I refresh, and now I have two tools up here. But when I hit the T key, it always selects FASIC's tools. So you can organize them any way you want. You can create all kinds of different combinations. You can put them in existing groups, or you can create new custom groups. Now, one of the issues with using these custom tools is that occasionally you might have a lot of extra tools in there, and depending on the size of your monitor, you might not have room for all of them. And so an option would be, if you're if you're doing drawing and construction and shape creation, you might have one set of really nice tools that you like to use. And when you're doing animation, you might have a completely different set of tools that you want to use. And to save space and to reduce complexity of the interface, you could have different tool display for each type of work that you're doing. And the way to do that would be to create multiple custom content folders, which is quite easy to do and quite easy to switch back and forth. What I'm going to do is, once again, I'm going to go under the Help menu, and it's now here I have Open Custom Folder, and I also have Set. Well, we've already set a folder, but I'm going to set a new one. So I go here, and I hit Choose. That same window pops up. When you say Set, it's going to pop up that same window, and I click to Choose. And here we're still in that Custom Content 1. Now here's the interesting thing. I could create a new folder and create a new custom content folder that's empty and drag tools into it. But I already have one that's created, and I'm going to switch to that so I have access to all of my Hubu Media custom tools and features. So what I've done now is, instead of creating a new folder, I'm just selecting one that I've already created previously, and I'm going to hit Open. And now when I refresh the screen, everything changes, and you'll see that now I have some additional tools up here in the draw that weren't available before. Some of them are grayed out because I'm on the wrong type of frame. That's the way the tools are written. And also, too, under scripts, I now have, okay, the scripts, I missed that part. This is where you will have to restart. So let me do this. I'm going to quit out. I don't need to save. And I'm going to relaunch Anime Studio Pro. And under scripts now, I have Hubu Media custom folder with all the scripts that I have, because I switched when I changed my custom content folder to the Hubu Media folder. I now have a new set of tools available because it has a different setup and different tools available. And I can easily go and say Set Custom Content Folder, choose, and I could switch back to the original one that I had set before. So you can switch back and forth, and you can have as many of these as you want and switch back and forth. Now, as you can see here, I have some extra tools available that I've created myself, that I use to increase the performance and add new features to Anime Studio. So what I'd like to do is real quickly just show you. Oh wait, before I do that, I got to cover the debut users. So let's take a look at debut, because I want to make sure that you're all aware that this also works with debut as well as Anime Studio. So let me open up Anime Studio debut, and then I can just, same thing here is, I'm going to choose, I'm going to go to my, so now I have the folder already set up to hold all of my custom content folders. I'm making a new custom content folder. I'm putting it in my debut custom content folder. I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm just simply going to call it Webinar Custom Content Debut 1. So I'm going to create that. It's ready to go, and I'm going to hit Open, and the same process with debut occurs. And once again, I can go to the Help, and I can say Open Custom Content Folder, and it's exactly the same process. The main difference between debut and pro with scripts like this is that debut does not have a script folder at the top. Okay, so what's useful about these scripts at the top, and just for example, I'll show you just a real quick, I won't go through the whole process, but I'll just show you the difference. A script, a menu script at the top, does more than a tool. it usually pops up a window or allows you to do additional things that aren't available with just a simple tool. So like under the draw, there's like create a polygon, and it has an interface for creating a polygon, and you can change the number of sides. And so the menu scripts tend to have a little more features in creating things. In Debut doesn't have access to that script folder. However, don't let this hold you back, because you can work around that by, instead of using a script folder, what you would do is you would just make a button. So we can create menu scripts that work as buttons, and let me just demonstrate that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my webinar folder. I'm going to get rid of that and just unzip this again. Now we're going to put Phasix tools into our Debut folder, and it's the exact same process. I have my Phasix tools with the utility scripts, etc., etc. I have my Debut folder here. I'm going to open that up, open up scripts, and I'm going to, this time I'm just going to select and drag and drop. So I select these tools, I drop them into the tool folder. I select my utility script, drop it into utility, and once again I can do the screen, the key command to refresh, and just like in Anime Studio Pro, I now have access to the tools, and everything else is exactly the same. It's the same process. If you want to add, change your tool list, it's the exact same process. The same steps are involved. And really the only main difference between Debut and Pro is what I described, the missing menu script folder. And a workaround for this is that even with Pro, I often like to put menu scripts as buttons because they're just a little easier to get to. And that process works exactly the same in Debut. So it gives you the ability to have access to menu scripts, but they're listed as buttons. And I'll demonstrate that in that text file I was editing. If you look at this text file, you'll notice that several of the tools, instead of saying tool, they say button. So one good example is the text tool. So if I go to Debut and I click on the text tool, it doesn't work like a tool. I didn't click and then drag on the screen. I clicked it and it popped up this interface for creating text. And that's what a button does. It has a different behavior than an actual tool. So the trick for this is, if you want to add a menu script to Anime Studio Debut or even in Pro, you just, instead of you put it in the tool folder, but you call it a button instead of a tool, and then it behaves exactly the same as a menu script. And that's the basic difference in how to install a menu script in Debut. As well as in Pro, you can install it as a tool, as a button. Now, one of the issues with doing this is menu scripts in Pro don't require an icon. If you look into this folder, I've just installed all these wonderful new tools. You know, I'm just ignoring what they are. It doesn't matter, except you'll notice that there are ping files, little image files for some of these for all these tools. And those are the little icons that show up here. So if you install if you're in a Pro and you install a menu script, it doesn't require an icon because it's just there and it's just listed as text and you're selecting it. So oftentimes script writers will not create icons. And generally what will happen then is you'll get like a little red X. You can go online and go to the forum, and if you ask nicely, people will probably create one for you. You can do like I did 5 minutes before this webinar. I went in and just created icons for two of my tools that I was going to demo today. And I just, this one is a Z index mover, so it has a Z on a white box. It's really easy to create these little icons if you feel, you need to. Keep in mind, rolling over the tool, even if it doesn't have an icon, will display the name, and it still works and functions properly. But that's just one little thing that you need to be aware of. However, you can still take advantage of all the menu scripts available in Debut just by putting it in the tool folder, editing your tool list. So instead of listing it as a tool, you do the same process. You paste the name and you call it a button, and you can even give it a shortcut as before. So just to demonstrate that, this is a tool here that I've created. It's a Z scaling tool. I'm going to go ahead and install that in Anime Studio Debut. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go back out. I'm going to go to my custom content for Pro, and I'm going to go to my Hubu Media folder here. And I'm going to go to my scripts and menu. And here we have some tools going on in here. Just make sure I got this right. All right, so let's go to Tools. Oh, actually, I picked the wrong script because that is actually a tool script. So let's find a good. Let's do the walk cycle because that's really good for Debut. It works with the character wizard characters, and it creates a walk cycle. Now this is a menu script, so I'm going to install that in Debut, and that's listed under my Hubu Media folder under Bones, I believe. No, it's just loose under here. So I'm going to get this walk cycle script, the Lua file. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to go over here. Now remember, this is a menu script in Pro, but I'm going to install it as a tool in Debut. So this is my Debut folder, and I'm just going to paste it in there. There's my walk cycle script that I've just added to Debut. I'm going to go back to Debut, and I'm going to refresh. And now you can see what I was talking about previously. Because I have no icon for it, it just shows up as a little red X with a question mark in it. But the tool still works. And let's give this thing a shot. I'm going to go to my character wizard real quick. I'm just going to pick the default that's set up. Let me get rid of this guy here, and I'm just going to move this thing over here. And so now I want to do a walk cycle. So I can now have access to this menu script in Anime Studio Pro. That same script is available only under, it's available here as the walk cycle script in my scripts folder in Debut. I've just added it, and it falls in under Other. Now it's not going to work because it's not a button. It's going to work as a tool, which means you select it and do something. Well, it's not working correctly. I have to modify that in the tool list file. So I'm just going to go under here. I'm going to put my group Other back in. I'm going to call it Button. I'm going to put a tab. I'm going to get the name of that file as I did before with the Phasic tool. I'm going to paste in the name. I'm going to do tab, and I don't want a key shortcut. I don't really need one. I save that file. I go back to Debut, and when I reload, I now have my walk cycle button is now listed under the Other category, just as I set it up here. I'm going to click on it, and now it works properly. It's working as a button because I've given it a completely, I've changed it from a tool to a button. So now it's working just as it would in the in Pro as a menu script. And here is the frame step. I'm just going to do this from memory. I believe it's 6. The length, and this is one of the cool things about having access to these things is they can save you a lot of time. So I'm going to do 100 frames. And let's see here. I got to find the names of the bones. Let's make sure that the bones. Let me get my character here. It's front 3/4. My bone name is foot R and foot L. So I select the top level of bones. I'm going to click my little button again here, and I'm going to do 6, 100, oops, 6, 100, foot L, foot R. And the direction is he's traveling from left to right, so I'm going to leave that the way it is. My script also includes pop-up instructions, so I hit OK, and we'll see if it works. Now, I probably need to do some tweaking on that, but it sort of gives you a walk cycle at some point. I didn't measure the actual distance of the feet, but anyway, that's how you set up a menu script as a button in Anime Studio. Let's move on now. Let's demonstrate some really cool, exciting tools that you have available to you once you install scripting. Real quickly, this is a script that I created because one of the things that I found annoying was that I didn't have the ability to do any really cool titling effects. And I think titling is something that would be really helpful in Anime Studio. It was for a big project I was working on. So I thought, well, let's just go ahead and create a script to do this. So the first thing I want to do is create some text. So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to type in Anime Studio.
Vern, I'm just going to interrupt you for a second,
Sure.
if you don't mind. I just wanted everyone to know that we're reaching close to the end of the webinar, so if you have any questions, please ask your questions in the question area, and then we'll get to those questions at the very end when Vern is done. Thank you very much. Sorry, go ahead.
So I'm creating some text here, and I've set it to create outlines. The script works with outlines. I'm going to set the fill color to white on the black background, and I'll hit OK. I'm going to scale this down a little bit, and what I really need to do is put this on a separate layer, so I'm going to copy that out. So now we have that text, so all I need to do is run my menu script, which is spinning text, and the spinning text comes up and it has a bunch of settings that you can play around with. It also, once again, has descriptions for how everything works. What we're going to do is we're going to choose a preset. I'm going to choose blow away. Oh, I made a mistake. I apologize. That happens. It always happens. You're bound to make mistakes. When I created my text layer, I neglected to create multiple shapes of each letter. So I'm going to go back in, I'm going to create a new text layer, and here I'm going to say create one shape. I don't want to create one shape. I need individual shapes for each letter. I'm going to scale that down, and now I'll run my script again. Under scripts, Hubu Media, spinning text. I have my settings. I'm going to choose a preset, blow away. I'm going to hit OK, and it runs through and it does this bizarre little flickering of stuff going on. But what you end up with is a easy to create animated effect where the text blows away. We can run that again. text back in, same thing. Scale it down, and I'm going to run this scripts, spinning text, and we'll pick a different preset. Let's try rain down. I like that one. That one's fun. Once again, script runs through its little thing. You hit play, and you have a whole new effect. And that script is really powerful, and you can do all kinds of experimentation with the different settings. You can change the settings. It also handles motion blur and that type of thing. So you can. This adds a whole new, really cool feature, all by simply downloading and dropping this in as a button or a menu script into Anime Studio, and you instantly have access to a titling functionality that isn't available out of the box with Anime Studio. So that's one of the cool features of having access to these scripts. You can create all kinds of amazing effects. You can also change how the program works by having access to additional tools. For example, the Phasix tools is just one small example. There's all kinds of things out there that people are using to great effect with Anime Studio to increase performance and how they do things. And Phasix tools is one option where you can multi-select and translate. I mean, that's one of the things a lot of new users say, why can't I do more with just one tool? Well, if you feel you need that, then go ahead and download these optional tools. How do I do titling effects? You can go and get the script. If you want to play with SmartBones, there's a SmartBone tool on the Anime Studio scripts. It's a SmartBone helper, awesome set of tools. We're running a little bit short on time, so I'm not gonna demonstrate that. But once you learn how easy and simple it is to install these tools, and you start reading the descriptions of what they do, you really get excited, and it's fun and exciting. And you don't have to understand how scripts work at all. All you have to know is how to drag and drop files into a folder, how to create your custom tool folder. And like I said, you can create multiple sets of folders that you can switch back and forth to create different tool sets. And I believe that's it. I believe I'm done. I'm ready for some questions. If you guys have any questions, just let me know.
Thank you so much, Vern. We definitely have a few questions, and I'd like to remind participants to continue asking more questions. We do have a good 5 to 10 minutes to answer these. So the first question is, what are some common scripts that you recommend new users to use?
Common scripts for new users. That's a tricky one. I guess it depends on the user. I would definitely recommend for a new user, Phasix tools is awesome. I mean, I remember when I first started using Moho and Anime Studio as it progressed through the years, and one of the main things that I discovered, and I think also new users discover, is that some of the tools aren't quite as easy to use. And I would say Phasix tools is one of the ones that I would recommend. You don't, as I demoed here, you don't have to install all of them all at once. You can install one or all of them, and as you can see here, there's add point tools, bind point tools, there's translate tools. You don't have to add all of them, just add the ones that you want to use, and only those show up. So I would definitely say Phasix tools is a good one to look at. And then from that point forward, it all depends on, as you get better at Anime Studio and you say, hey, I want to save time doing this, then you can start to learn what you need. Yeah, I would say Phasix tools would go a long way to helping people adjust to the different interface of Anime Studio.
Now, on that note, what are some scripts that you recommend for experienced users? Maybe something that you prefer or that you like that you think is really cool for their workflow?
Yes, one of the new features that's blowing everybody's mind is SmartBones, and I would definitely recommend the SmartBone helpers. Um, that it is just, I haven't really gotten heavy into SmartBones yet. I know how to use them, and I use them, but the SmartBone helpers would be something I would jump on for advanced users who are starting to use SmartBones. There's some scripts like the morph dial script is also something that's really exciting to use because it allows you to interact more effectively with the action morphing. There are some scripts, I'm not seeing it right here, but let me just see. There's one that allows you to key frames on multiple layers. I'm just trying to remember what it's called, but you can do a search for it on the site, and you can look through and try to find it. It gives you the ability to keyframe multiple layers with one click. That would be a really time-saving one. Bone Parent Master is another really nice one because you just, with one key click, you can select the parent layer. So if you're deep down on a nested layer, you just go click, 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 and you're back up to the parent. And it's tough to recommend for advanced users because everybody has their own preferences and everybody uses a different set of tools, and so they have a desire for something specific for what they want to do. But those are a couple that I would recommend.
Thanks, Vern. The next question is, what size are the icons for the scripts?
Oh yeah, let me just show you real quick because like I said, I was just doing this right before. Am I still on display? Can you still see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, this is Photoshop, and I was just creating some custom tools. So I created, this was my Z-depth translation tool. This was a tool that I created recently. It keys the point motion of points that are influenced by the bone, so you can get the point motion. And the image size, let me just get the image size here, in pixels is 24 by 20. And that's for the small icons. Debut also has larger icons. I don't use it that much, but if you switch to, if you switch to the beginner's mode in Debut, it has larger icons, and they have a different size. And I believe that size, I think I do have some here. Let me see, scripting webinar, studio content, Debut, Hubu Media. Let me just go to my scripts tool. Oh wait, I think it's in here. Let me just check. There were some large icons. I'm just trying to find it. I'm sorry, I don't know offhand the exact size, but we can definitely find that and get that info to you. But like I said, these larger icons are only for Debut and only when you're in beginner's mode. So it's probably not used as much when you're getting into advanced scripting. The other thing too is some of these tools have different cursors. So I can open one of those up with Photoshop, see what that looks like. And I believe that's just set size. Let's see, image size, and that's 16 by 16. Now the cursor is a special tool. You don't have to use it, but you can create a special cursor. So if you have a special tool and you want to have the cursor look different, you can create that as well. And that would be but most of the tools you're going to download are probably going to have a cursor already included, or it's going to use one that's already existing, or it'll just use the default. But those are the two sizes. So 24 by 20 for the tool palette icon, and 16 by 16 for a custom cursor. And these are 24-bit pings, so that way you get the transparent effect. And they're kind of fun to play around with if you want to do custom cursors. So that's that.
Thank you, Vern. The next question is, are there limits on how many tools buttons can be installed?
I believe there is a limit. I have never hit that limit. I don't know offhand the technical limitations of how many tools you can include, custom tools. The only real problematic limitation is the limited space of the tool palette itself. And that's why I'm starting to lean more towards switching my custom content folder. Because what'll happen is I'll find myself, if I'm doing one specific thing, I'm only using a handful of tools. So why should I clutter up my whole screen with all these tools and use up all the space when I only use a handful of custom tools, so I can switch back and forth. But really the only real limitation is when this tool palette gets way filled up, it's going to bump off the bottom of the screen, and you're going to have problems seeing it. Now you can pop it out. You can pop your tool palette out so that it can be a larger tool palette, but even then it's going to be limited to how much room you have on your screen. So as far as I know, I don't know, I think it was like $9.99 or $9.99 or 99 tool. I don't know. I don't really think there's a huge limitation for it.
The other question, Vern, is in regards to corrupting Anime Studio. Is there a possibility of corrupting Anime Studio when you're editing the tools list?
No, you can break Anime Studio. In fact, in my practice, like 5 minutes before this started, I did manage to mess up my tool list file, and I was able to fix it really easily. What I would suggest you do is you may want to just keep a backup. If you're going to edit the tool list text file, it's just really easy to make a copy of it and save it somewhere just in case. But the only thing that you could really do incorrectly would be is if there's like these comments at the top, you could actually, it's a asterisk and a /. So if, for example, if I drag that down here and I save that and reload it, let me switch out of beginner mode. I've now broken my tool palette because I've deactivated my draw and it crashed. So you don't have you're not going to completely break it. You just need to keep a backup just in case, so that you don't screw anything up and you can revert back. But you can't permanently break the program. You're not likely to do too much damage that can't be easily reversed. And as a script writer myself, I break Anime Studio 50 times a day. I mean, I crash it constantly, and it still works. It's not like your car where you got to take it to the body shop. It's usually easily fixed. Yeah, as long as you keep a backup of your tool list file, you can start fresh from scratch and just start over from scratch. And like I said, just follow the basic template that's described here, and you won't have any problems adding new tools. Keep in mind, if you put in a shortcut that's already used up here, then I believe the last shortcut key will override anything that's up here. So you want to keep that in mind. There's only a few keys left to be used. So that's that.
Thanks, Vern. Another point that I'd like to make, and then this leads into my next question, is that sometimes scripts, they're written by third parties, and they're not written by the developers of Anime Studio. So there's no guarantee that the script will work with Anime Studio. So sometimes the script could have a corrupting agent and could potentially cause Anime Studio to crash. So the question, Vern, is, does that happen, and what are the remedies for that?
Yes. That's a really good question, and that's probably one of the issues that can be problematic. generally what can happen is if you're downloading a script, that's why going to the Anime Studio scripts, these scripts are written by top of the line guys. I would say most of them have been really tested pretty well. There are some beginner scripters who might not be as efficient or effective as scripting, and my recommendation would be stick with scripts that are well known, that have been vetted by other users, and you can ask on the forum. You can go to the scripting forum and say, I have this script, and is this safe to use? Or you can say, hey, I have this script and it crashes and it's doing all this bad stuff. And the recommendation would be if a script causes constant crashing or causes problems in Anime Studio, just don't use it. Just don't use it. Take it out and not use it. Yeah, these are created by third party, and in most cases you may occasionally get like a console error might pop up because there hasn't been a lot of error testing. Those console windows generally tell you what's going wrong with the script, that you could report back to the person who created it and say, hey, I got this error, what's going on here. In general, scripts like this are not going to do permanent damage, and it's always a try at your own risk type of situation. I hope that to some degree answers the question and alleviates any fear. But yes, there's always a slight risk that you're going to get a script that's going to crash Anime Studio. The ones that are written really well and have been used for a long time, and there's tons of those available, those scripts generally don't cause a lot of trouble.
Perfect, thank you, Vern. And we're reaching close to the end of the webinar, so we'll take one more question, and that is related to this webinar, but more or less along the lines of how does one get started with writing their own scripts?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. If you're brave enough to try it out, you are going to have to hunt down the file itself to do this, but under the scripts menu in Pro is a folder called script writing, and what it does is it has a few kind of interesting little demos of different things you can do that you can copy and paste into your own scripts. If you're getting started with writing scripts, the first thing you want to do is look at the existing scripts that already exist. All of the standard tools for Anime Studio are scripts, and they can be opened up and looked at. All of the menu scripts that come with Anime Studio can be opened up and looked at. You also want to make sure that you go to the scripting. This is the website that I've been working with, Smith Micro. You can come here, and it has a lot of information on how to type in the elements. When I first started, I knew nothing about scripting, and so one of the second most important thing, or maybe even the first, is to learn the programming language Lua. Lua is used in a lot of 3D applications, but it's just a really fairly simple and straightforward scripting language that's quite easy to learn if you have the propensity for it. If you have any scripting knowledge whatsoever in other platforms, like if you know JavaScript, if you know any PHP, or if you know any like Python, if you have any scripting knowledge whatsoever, you can probably apply that knowledge to learning Lua. And if you Google Lua, Lua.org would be the place to go, and they have all the documentation, and they have tons of examples and reference materials. They have the book on Lua that's like available online, and you can get lots of information there. The trick is you have to learn Lua. The components within Anime Studio that reference the document are all controlled by this Lua programming language. And you know, once you get the hang of it, you start really small and you analyze the scripts that are already available. Just really quick, I don't want to waste too much time on this. I'm switching over to the Windows side. I just want to show you, it's a little trickier on the Mac side, and it's a little different, and there's probably more Windows people. But if on the Windows side, see if I can remember how to do it. You want to go to your applications folder, and that's where you would find the scripts that are in the tool palette. And I'm just trying to remember where that would be. I'm not familiar. All right, I'm going to show it on the Mac because that's probably, I can find it really, really fast on the Mac. I would go to my applications folder, and I'm going to come down here to Anime Studio. Now, this is the difference between Mac and Windows. On the Mac, the resource files are stored in the package. On Windows, you just have to go to your applications folder, find your Anime Studio application, and open that up, and the setup is very similar. But on the Mac, I would show the package contents, and then in here are resources. I'm going to scroll down here. Now remember, this is for, I wasn't going to talk about this, but you know, I figure, you know, just to give you an idea where everything is. So I'm going to come down here to resources. I'm just trying to remember exactly where it is. Here it is. So it's under package contents, resources, and then support. And you come down here, and here's your scripts folder. And here are all the actual scripts that are used by Anime Studio. And these are the files that you can open up. Another recommendation would be to get a really, really, really good code editing software. Something I use BBEdit, something that has code syntax highlighting. So as you can see here, all the proper things are highlighted, so I know exactly what they're doing. It also has error correction and, you know, automatic filling of information. But I don't want to scare people in thinking they have to understand this stuff. But if you're really interested in it, it can be a lot of fun. Anime Studio currently does have physics, but I had written a script for physics long before they ever put it in. I'm grateful that they put it in built in because it's much better. But I did have, you know, bouncing balls and springy springs and all kinds of cool stuff that I just did on my own by learning the Lua scripting language. And that's why we create these cool tools, because you can do anything you can think of, you can do. The spinning text intro animation, I was working on a project and I wanted to do the intro text in Anime Studio, so I, you know, took a few days out of my time and wrote a script to do it for me. And I have fun just playing around with it. So yeah, it is an exciting thing to get into. I hope that answered your question.
Perfect. Thank you very much. We're very close to wrapping up. One last thing I was going to ask you, Vern, was to show your website where users can actually download your scripts, the ones that you showed right now.
Yeah, sure. Let me go there. So my website is Hubu Media. We specialize in website design primarily, but because of my connection with Smith Micro and Anime Studio, I've created a section specifically for that. Now, it's a little tricky to get to, but I believe the link for this webinar will have a direct link to the scripting section. But basically, it's under Animation, under Services, Animation, and there's a link for Anime Studio scripts. So once you get to the Animation Services page, you click on Anime Studio scripts, and all of the scripts that I've created that are available right now are available for free with the download. Most of them have, a lot of them have videos that show you how to use it and what they do. And other than that, that's basically, you know, they're all available here. So it's hubumedia.com/anime-studio-scripts. So you know, bookmark that page. and there's lots of cool things here you can download and have fun with.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Vern. We'll get the reins of the webinar over to myself here, and then we'll finalize and finish up the webinar here. So thank you very much for your time, Vern. Really appreciate it, and I'm sure I learned a ton. I'm sure a lot of other people feel the same way. So thank you very much for your time. With that, if anybody wants more information on Anime Studio, please go to our website, anime.smithmicro.com. We continually have new webinars. If you want to see a recording or if you want to see when new webinars are going to occur, please go to that link, my.smithmicro.com webinars. And please like us on Facebook and as well as follow us on Twitter. That way you have the most current information on Anime Studio. Now, we also have an email list that we would love for you to join. And if you are a student or a teacher, please make sure to look at our educational pricing and get some more information on what we offer to the educational sector. So the link is available for you as well there. And finally, Vern shared his scripts, and they're available on hubumedia.com, and the link right there is available for you to see as well. And then Vern also showed several scripts that were available on the Anime Studio Scripts website. The link is also available on your screen right now, so please make sure to go to both of those websites to get more scripting access and scripts for you to play around with. Finally, if you ever have a question that you want to ask Vern directly, he's always available on the Lost Marble forum. So his pseudonym, or he's known as Hey Vern. So please make sure to ask him questions over there. And with that, well, we've reached the end of the webinar, and we want to thank everybody for their time, especially Vern, and hope to catch you next time. Thank you.